I've been contrasting a false hope and a true hope. And I've been saying that we can put our hope in something. We will put our hope in something. The problem is whether we are going to put our hope in something that will let us down in the end, or whether it's something that will sustain us, especially through the difficulties of life. What I'm really talking about in this series is moving from fear to faith. That's really what I'm about. Moving from a posture of fear about the uncertainty, the unknown, to a posture of faith where I transfer my trust and my hope to the one who made me, the one who created the world, the one who makes me promises and tells me that I will, in fact, deliver you and I will be there with you. And you may not know the circumstances or the reasons why all those things occur, but at the end of the day, all will be well, and I will carry you safely to the other side. There are a number of passages that I think we do well to reflect upon. I wanted to give you a few this morning just to kind of think about. And one of them is from Psalm 46. These are just passages that when you read about these texts, particularly Psalms of Lament, you'll often see that they will reflect upon their tough circumstances, and then they'll reflect on the God of creation, the God of redemption, the God who has worked in history, and they will sometimes meditate upon His work or His ways, His attributes. And having reflected upon Him, that'll bring a perspective to the circumstances that they face. In Psalm 46, verses 1 to 3, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth should change, and though the mountains slip into the heart of the sea, though the waters roar and foam, though the mountains quake at its swelling pride. What he's saying is no matter what happens, we can move from fear to faith because we are trusting in the one who is our refuge and our strength. So that's Psalm 46, 1 to 3. An earlier psalm, Psalm 9, comes at it from a similar direction, in a similar way, particularly Psalm 9, verses 9 through 10. The Lord also will be a stronghold for the oppressed. Again, he uses that metaphor of a tower or a place of safety or a place of refuge that we can go to when we are being attacked from without. And he says he's a stronghold for those who are oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. And those who know your name will put their trust in you, for you, O Lord, have not forsaken those who seek you. So again, the issue of trust and moving from being afraid, being anxious, being fearful, to a settled disposition of confidence in the purposes of God, even though I may not understand the turmoil I'm facing. It's not always for us to understand the situation, but to understand that there is one who does, and one who will carry us ultimately through this process to the other side. Another psalm, and one of my favorites, is Psalm 107. It's a psalm I ought to teach sometime in this setting. It's a beautifully structured psalm. It has four basic movements, and each of them is a picture of adversity, often caused by the people's own rebellion and foolishness, and how God delivers them through those adversities. And at the end of each of those little scenes, four scenes that you have, there's this little expression. It appears in verse 8 first. Let them give thanks to the Lord for His loving kindness and for His wonders to the sons of men. For He has satisfied the thirsty soul, and the hungry He has filled with what is good. So that's the first of these. Then he imagines another scenario in which there was misery and oppression because of their foolishness. But then God delivered them. And then verse 15, let them give thanks to the Lord for His loving kindness and for His wonders to the sons of men. A third scenario is again where it's an image of how they have brought themselves to the brink of death. But then God delivers them out of their destruction. Verse 21. The response, let them give thanks to the Lord for His loving kindness and for his wonders to the sons of men. Yet a fourth scenario, going down to the sea in ships, and they were almost completely lost in the stormy wind. God lifted them up. He delivered them from their distress. He caused the storm to be still. And the response, just as we've seen, verse 31, let them give thanks to the Lord for his loving kindness and for his wonders to the sons of men. It could be translated, oh, that men would give thanks to God for his loving kindness. Oh, that they would remember him first. And that we would have this posture, this mindset of an attitude of gratitude toward God for his loving kindness, for his wonders, and for his many deliverances. And we do well to review times of turmoil and storms and turbulence in our own lives in the past and recall how God has delivered us through that. And more than that, he's given us insight. He's actually caused us to grow through that pain. What appeared to be pointless, meaningless, and painful turned out, in fact, to be redemptive. And that is a perspective. So that we would give thanks to God for his loving kindness. And that we can do even in good circumstances and in difficult circumstances. We can choose to give thanks, because choosing to give thanks is really a power that you have. You've been given the capacity, the power to choose the way of gratitude rather than the way of ingratitude. He goes on to say at the very end of the psalm, he says, who is wise? Verse 43. Let him give heed to these things and consider the loving kindness of the Lord. So we think about this idea, the loving kindnesses. It's the word chesed, and it's a word that speaks of a loyal love, a covenant love. It is a love that constantly pursues the best good for those who are the objects of that love. His is a love that chooses the best for us. And though we do not understand where it ends, he sees the end, and he chooses the better way. And I suggest to you that you and I would typically choose the inferior way, based upon our lights, which do not really encompass all that is truly going on. There's a lot of things going on that we cannot see, but that God knows. And so he would give us a greater choice. He would call us into a greater direction that, for our point of view, might seem to be the way of pain. Another text that comes to my mind is Jeremiah chapter 9, and this is actually one of my favorite couplets in the scriptures, these two verses. Jeremiah chapter 9, verses 23 to 24. Sometimes, in fact, if I sign or autograph a book, I might put these two verses in there. Every so often, I have several verses I use when I sign a book. I never know which one's going to pop out. Every so often, though, I'll throw in Leviticus 3:16 to see if they were looking. That's the verse that says, all fat is the Lord's. You know, that's what it says. I probably could put it in with impunity and no one would look it up. Verse 23, Jeremiah 9. Thus says the Lord, let not a wise man boast of his wisdom, and let not the mighty man boast of his might, let not a rich man boast of his riches. Those are the three things, and variations of those three, that men give their lives in exchange for, I fear. They give their lives in exchange for power, for position, for wealth, for control, any number of things. The things that impress people do not impress God. He says, don't really rejoice in that. Don't boast of that. Rather, if you want to boast in something, boast in that which is truly worthy of praise. But let him who boasts boast of this, verse 24, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord who exercises loving kindness, justice, and righteousness on earth, for I delight in these things, declares the Lord. If you want to boast, the ultimate, you hear about people who are name droppers. Have you ever known people like that? They've got to make sure you know everybody who's well known that they may happen to know. Some people, if they were to write an autobiography, might entitle it 10 Great People Who Have Known Me. You know, that'd be their book. But they can define themselves by the people that they know. Don't be impressed. You want to be the ultimate name dropper? It's